Hatchet, Chapter 3. Going to die, Bran thought. Going to die. Gonna die. Gonna die. His whole brain screamed it in the sudden silence. Gonna die. He wiped his mouth with the back of his arm and held the nose down. The plane went into a glide, a very fast glide, at that 8 altitude. And suddenly there weren't any lakes. All he'd seen since they started flying over the forest was lakes, and now they were gone. Gone out in front, far away at the horizon. He could see lots of them gathering blue in the at in the late afternoon sun. But he needed one right in front. He desperately needed a lake right in front of the plane, and he saw through the windshield where trees, green death trees. If he had to turn, he didn't think he could keep the plane flying. His stomach lightened into a series of rolling knots, and his breath came in short bursts. There, not quite in front, but slightly to the right, he saw a lake, L-shaped, with rounded corners, and the plane was nearly attempted at the long part of the L, coming from the bottom and heading to the top, just a tiny bit to the right. He pushed the right rudder pedal gently and the nose moved over. But the turn cost him speed, and now the lake was above. The nose he pulled back on the wheel slightly, and the nose came up. This caused the plane to slow dramatically, and almost seemed to stop and wallow in the air. The controls became very loose feeling, and frightened Brian, making him push the wheel back in. This increased the speed a bit, but filled the windshield once more with nothing but trees, and put the lake well above the nose and out of reach. For a space of 3 or 4 seconds, things seemed to hang almost to stop. The plane was flying, but so slowly, it would never reach the lake. Brian looked down to the side and saw a small pond at the edge of the pond. Some large animal, he thought, a moose, standing out in the water, also looking. So stopped. The pond and the moose and the trees as he slid over them now, only 300 or 400 feet off the ground, all like a picture. Then everything happened at once. Trees suddenly took on Dale or Dettel, filled his whole field of vision with green, and he knew he would hit and would die. But luck held, and just as he was to hit, he came into an open land and channel of fallen trees and wide place led to the lake. The plane committed now to landing. To crash fell into the wide place like a stone, and Brian eased back on the wheel to brace himself for the crash. But there was a tiny bit of speed left, and when he pulled on the wheel, the nose came up, and he saw in front of the blue of the lake. At that instant, the plane hit the trees. There was a great wrench as the wings caught the pines at the side of the clearing and broke back, ripping back just outside the main braces. Dust and dirt blew off the floor into his face so hard he thought there must have been some kind of explosion. He was momentarily blinded and slammed forward in the seat, smashing his head on the wheel. Then a wild crashing sound, R.I.P.ing of metal, and the plane rolled to the right and below through the trees, out over the water and down, to slam into the lake. Ship once on water, as hard as concrete, water that tore the windshield out and shattered the side windows, water that drove him back into the seat. Somebody was screaming as the plane drove down into the water. Someone screamed tight animal screams of fear and pain, and he did not know what it was. His sound that he roared against the water that took him and the plane still deeper down in the water. He saw nothing but sense blue, cold blue-green, and he raked at the seatbelt. Batch tore his nails loose on the one hand. He ripped at it until he realized that, and somehow the water tried to kill him, to end him. Somehow he pulled himself out of the scattered front window and clawed up into the blue, felt something hold him back, felt his windbreakers tear, and he was free, tearing free, ripping free. But so far to the surface, and his lungs could not do this thing, could not hold and wear through. And he sucked water, took a great pull of water that would finally win, finally take him, and his head broke into light, and he vomited, and swam, pulling without knowing that he was what he was doing. That hold on, pulling without knowing what he was doing, without knowing anything, pulling until his hands caught at weeds and muck, pulling and screaming, until his hands caught at last in grass and brush, and he felt his stopping. Everything stopped. A color came that he had never seen before, a color that exploded in his mind. With the plane, and he was gone from it all, spiraling out into the world, spiraling out into nothing. Nothing.
The end.